audience there. I think they're trying to deal with the air circulating so we don't get too warm in here. But I think that this speaks to the interest of the issue and the reason that we're all here this afternoon. So let me begin by welcoming you all this afternoon. I'm Lisa Murkowski. I serve you in Washington, D.C., and I'm very honored to serve you. I appreciate that you all have business, you all have other issues that you have in front of you. I know that there are some of you who have left the Unity gathering that I attended earlier this morning to be here to provide some comments. So thank you for taking the time today to gather to speak about an issue that I think we all would agree is of paramount importance, not only to the people of the YK Delta, but truly to Alaskans around our state. Many of you will recall that in October at AFN at Anchorage, I made a very public commitment to hold hearings on the issue of subsistence. And in working with AFN, they had asked that there be more than one hearing, and I concur. You just can't go to one place in Alaska, listen to one group of Alaskans, and say that you have heard from folks on the issue of subsistence. So this is the first of a listening session that I have made a commitment to. We're here today in Bethel. In May, we will be setting up a similar listening session out in the Otna region. I have also received the support from the chairman of the Energy Committee to hold a hearing back in Washington, D.C. in September on this issue. Now, many of you may ask, well, what exactly is a listening session, and is this just me talking to other folks within the region? What really happens with the commentary that will be heard today? We have a court reporter that is with us. All the comments that are received today will be part of the committee record on the subsistence issue. Now, for those of you that have ever had an opportunity to testify in Washington, D.C., you know that it's a very structured, a very formal program. Only those that are invited are able to offer testimony. Your testimony is limited to no more than 5 minutes. You may or may not be asked questions, but it's very limited in its scope and in terms of who can actually weigh in. I didn't think that type of a hearing or that type of an approach would best serve Alaskans. So I was looking for a forum and a format that would allow me to hear and for as many Alaskan voices as possible to make part of this record. So between the various listening sessions that we will have and then the more formal hearing that we will have in Washington, D.C., this will comprise the record. What you hear today, as well as written testimony that may be received by way of our website, that could be faxed in, emailed in, that commentary and that input will also be received. Now you might ask the question also, why the Energy Committee? The Energy Committee is the committee in the United States Senate that has jurisdiction over Anilka and over ANCSA. So I felt that it was important to make sure that the committee of jurisdiction over Anilka, over ANCSA, have an opportunity to weigh in on this. Now there may be a possibility for hearings or listening sessions also within the Indian Affairs Committee, but that has not yet been resolved at this point in time. So what I would hope that we would hear today are the concerns, the comments, the fears, the hopes that you all have when it comes to our subsistence needs, not only here within the YK region, but truly from a statewide perspective. Anna Hoffman has agreed to be the moderator and will make sure that there is a flow here. I will turn the microphone over to her for further explanation in terms of how we will proceed today. But you will notice that I am not going to be commenting after your statements. This is your opportunity to create a legislative record. This is not like a town hall where there's give and take and questions and answers. What we're trying to do here is establish the record for all to see as we put that into legislative language. So with that, I will turn the microphone over to Anna, who will explain the process here, and then we will go to our first speaker, and Anna will direct us from there. So Anna?
All right, Boyana. I'm just going to make a couple of remarks, and then we have several pages of people who want to speak, and we'll start with Myron after I make this introduction. If you look back at the book, The Village Journey, Thomas Berger traveled across Alaska in the early 1980s to provide a report to the Alaska Native Review Commission. Those that are familiar with the book know that much of the book is focused on subsistence. In the introduction, Paul John stated very clearly, our subsistence way of life is especially important to us. Among other needs, it is our greatest. We are desperate to keep it. Thomas Berger wrote, everywhere I journeyed in Alaska, villagers were engaged in traditional subsistence activities, hunting, fishing, and gathering. Those observations were made more than 30 years ago. I believe the same can be said about Village Alaska today. These listening sessions are necessary to continue to preserve our lifestyle. The stories of area residents we are about to hear will bring a face to the hunter-gatherer and a family to the harvest. Through these stories, members of Congress will gain an understanding that subsistence is not just a policy to be protected. It is a people, a community, and a culture that is worth preserving. We will work to observe the 5-minute time period, so please forgive me in advance if I have to cut your comments short and move along to the next person. And Kuyana for everybody, Kuyana Tailuchi, Ilaga Tugluchi Humani. Kalach nginan ni agnasasak mulking naknaraput. Agulai kumstisu pizza kanaitamchi unasasakingan malking naklukupaput. Kuyana taring luchi tamatum. Panik mayroon chimney katakutut.
Boyana Anna, and I'd like to thank Senator Murkowski, because I sat by her during the AFN convention and she was whispering in my ear. I definitely plan on holding hearings regarding subsistence sometime this coming spring and summer. And last week I spoke with Senator Begich, and he said that the Indian Select Committee is also going to be holding hearings this coming fall in Anchorage and possibly during the AFN convention. So there will be 2 committees that will be conducting hearings regarding subsistence. I really appreciate you taking the first step and effort to hold a listening session here. That's what it's called today. However, it's going to be part of the record for Congress. I know I'd like to welcome everyone that's here from the villages, all those that are from the YK Delta. I'd like to also recognize a few people that we work with from Anchorage and elsewhere. Robin Samuelson from Bristol Bay and his entourage from Bristol Bay area. Robin and I, we spent many hours at Board of Fish meetings trying to raise concerns regarding the fisheries that are impacting Western Alaska. That happens to be Earl Samuelson's first cousin. So, and Karen Gillis, who works with Bering Sea Fishermen Association, is here with us, as well as Stephanie Moreland from the Governor Parnell's fishery chief. So, and also the others from Fish and Wildlife Service. Senator, I think we have very major concerns here in the YK Delta regarding our Alaska tribal and hunting and fishing rights. It seems that our effort to get our traditional food security is being chipped away by regulations or by others who don't have respect for our lands and use of our lands and the welfare and perpetuation of the resources that we use for food. One, fishery management. As we all know, the fisheries was closed here on the Kuskokwim last summer, and some of our fishermen were brought to court by the state of Alaska, while down in Area M, over 4,000 Chinook salmon were caught commercially. There's no justice in that. And here our people are being cited, brought to court, and asked to pay a fine with monies that they don't have. And the bycatch limit that was provided to the trawl fleets out in the Bering Sea, I think those will have to be reduced to be part of the solution. We're not saying that trawl fleets are the only problem. We know that we are all of a problem, but we need to work together to reduce that bycatch to allow for more escapement of Chinook salmon into our river system. Last month, during the Board of Fish meeting, the Board of Fish adopted a regulation to keep Yukon River to be completely closed on the first pulse of Chinook salmon, and possibly the second. This, in essence, is a moratorium of our people to be able to fish for salmon on the river. Because last summer they were completely closed for fishing for chum salmon during the peak of the chum salmon run. And in essence, our people are the ones that are bearing the burden of conservation. We need to see a better management system that involves users and treats everyone equally. Not just the end users who, I stated before, are bearing primarily the burden of conservation with closures. There needs to be a large fine for every Chinook salmon taken as bycatch, so that we can use that money to research other reasons of why the Chinook are not returning to the spawning grounds. ABCP met last spring to talk about the Intertribal Fish Commission. That's our effort to work with federal and state agencies as co-managers of the resources that our people live and survive off of. Primarily salmon. And we need to get that Intertribal Fish Commission funded and work with both state of Alaska and with the federal government in funding that program, so that we as the Native people who have already been the primary guardians and users of these resources are the ones that are involved in the management of the fisheries. Like I stated before in the past, the Federal Subsistence group that sits as Federal Subsistence Board in Anchorage, made up of federal agencies, supervisors, are all grocery shoppers. We need people that live off these resources on a daily basis to be part of the plan and management. And we're also looking for a member, a tribal seat on the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council. And if possible, if there's going to be a disaster appropriation from Congress, can you consider having the fish commissions funded through that fishery disaster fund? Another issue that we're dealing with out here in the YK Delta is waterfowl management. You know, our lands are preserved to allow for more birds to nest, increase in numbers, and they go out during the winter time to some other locations for the winter. Our hunting and fishing, or hunting for migratory birds, is being diminished by the fact that the language and definition of indigenous inhabitants is being inclusive of all people who live in rural Alaska. I was part of the negotiating team for the Migratory Bird Treaty. Our negotiation stand was done on behalf of the native hunting that was done by people during spring, summer, and fall. And today it seems like the limitations that Fish and Wildlife Service and the International Fish and Wildlife Association was looking at back then is to further restrict and limit our ability to hunt migratory birds. That should not be the case. And as native landowners, we need to be the ones that are managing our Alaska lands, our native lands. Right now it seems like all our lands that we select for subsistence purposes, that's the original intent of many of the village land selections, is considered to be public lands by the state of Alaska. That is not the case. That shouldn't be the case. Every time you come up with a plan on resource management, I think both the feds and the state should come to the village landowners and ask, what do you think? What should we do? We must be co-managers of all hunting and fishing, not only on native lands, but as well as state and federal lands. And there must be full recognition of tribal hunting and fishing rights, because that's the only way it's going to clarify subsistence hunting and fishing rights of our people. Tribal recognition of hunting and fishing rights. That's what is needed. And one of the other, or the last comment I'm going to make is that regardless of state's positions, or most often not, we also have to deal with the Alaska Outdoor Council. Congress should keep the promises made to Alaska Natives in the Alaska Native Plains Settlement Act and recognize that the state of Alaska has broken the promises it made for rural priority in Alaska under ANILCA. Congress needs to act now. And one of the reasons why I brought up the issue about bycatch, and I see many of you are here from many of our CDQ villages, genetic stock ID studies that have been done on Chinook bycatch show that 74% of those Chinooks are bound for Western Alaska. That means that you are directly impacted by these closures, impacted by bycatch. So I think that even if you're from a village as a CDQ member, think about that. How much impact does it have on your people in your village? There's going to be closures of fishing starting in late May, starting all the way from Hooper Bay this coming summer to allow for more Chinook salmon to return to the Canadian border because we have a Canadian treaty obligation. And if you don't want to see that restriction continue on, I think we all need to get there and ask for a reduction on the bycatch allowable that currently is in the book with North Pacific Fisheries Management Council. And that's what we're working on. And we hope that this coming summer, none of our people will be sighted fishing for food, because that's in essence what our people are doing. Fishing for food, and it's our food security that we want to perpetuate for our young people in the future. With that, thank you very much, Senator.
Okay, Koyana Myron, now we will go into the public hearing portion. Please state your name slowly and clearly for the record. We have a court reporter documenting everything that you state, and we will be observing the 5-minute time period. And we can start with James Lakiralra. Nanchit. Yeah, Kluten. Okay. The microphone is coming. So please state your name. Do you want the spelling?
Thank you.
State and spell your
This
last
is James
name.
Aquilon. I didn't bring my testimony with me today, so.
You can email it in. Okay. Thank you. Boyana. Eric Olson. Kluten.
All I wanted to say is, my name is Eric C. Olson, OLSON Senior, and I'm from native village of Husa Bay. And I'd like to say that our allocation isn't fair and equal. We give our people, our youth, work, hope, and fish. And hopefully, we'd like to see our allocations fixed equally for our next generations to come. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Megan, have them hold it right here.
Richard Larson Sr. Namaskar. Nanjit. Yakta Fuji. Okay. Okay, Richard Larson.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Richard Larson Sr. I didn't know I was supposed to be speaking, but thank you anyway. My concern is this further, like when the fishing go through the streams upriver, especially, and fish count, and my concern is, even though we had to catch more, to count over 200,000 fish, still here, us subsistence fishermen in the Yukon and Delta area, we mostly, my concern is still here, they had to go, I'm sorry about my language. I'm kind of nervous, but this is the first time I'm speaking in front of lots of people. I've lived here in Alaska for 58 years, and I'm a subsistence fisherman. And I support what the gentleman said in front of me about what he mentioned earlier. And okay, my concern is us, the subsistence fishermen, don't go above, I believe, we only catch 90,000, not even close to 20,000 fish for our families in Yukon and Delta area.
Okay, kalahtakafting to the mic. And we did have the sign-up sheet, but we're actually going to be going by as you raise your hand. So if you do, because some people signed up just to establish that they were here, and like you, some people are being called upon that didn't really have something that they wanted to state. So if you do have testimony to make, please raise your hand and we'll call upon you. I know that Fred Phillip traveled here this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, Koyana. I know Fred Phillip is he here? Not Fred. Okay. You called me this morning, you came in from Quig and wanted to speak, so please.
For the record, my name is Fred Phillip. I'm from Quig. And I'm really glad that this process is taking place. And for us, it's really important to take note. We've been fighting, I don't know, forever on this issue. Seems like from way back AFM days, if people can remember that, it's always been a huge issue, dear to our hearts. Also, I brought a report that we did back in 2008 to 2011. At the end of 2011, the report was presented to the Fisheries Management Council, and I brought a copy for you. And the report is about our way of life. It covers just about, not just this area, but it also the Coeric Nome region area. 17 villages were visited, and elders as well as hunters of today were interviewed, and it goes to show that even with the different cultures that we have, salmon culture, but also the coastal people that live along the coast, all utilize the ocean waters. And maybe also for the record, if you need more copies, I would appreciate it if you can let me know. Thanks again.
Brianna, Fred, Daisy.
Danani. Talking, I'm trying to get close to our Honorable Murkowski. In any testimony, it's always imperative to be close. My name is Daisy Barrera. My Yupik name is Ikja. My former name is Lamar. It is an honor and a pleasure to be standing before you, Your Honorable Murkowski, as well as your staff and our people of this region. 39 years ago, I stood before Congress, House, and Senate and said and testified the same thing I'm going to be saying. It's wonderful that I can say it again, but in a better way. There is a great difference between farmers and subsistence users. The farmers sell their stock. They gather. Subsistence users work extremely hard to attain and gain what needs to be attained and gained to feed the family. Not only the family, but the community, for those that are ill in the hospital, for those that are incarcerated in the jails. A lot of our subsistence food is shared. So what I'm saying today, in 1984, we as Alaska Native women statewide challenged and addressed the subsistence issue, the need of subsistence issue. With all the 12 regional women, I was one of them. Maybe we need to do that, huh? Wake up the state and the federal government, I don't know. We are awake as Yupik people and as Alaska Native people. This issue is not an issue to debate, have stress over, because the bottom line, it is a right to live. It's something that was given to me and to you and your grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, your future husbands or wives, from our Creator. It came with no regulations. It came with no rules. Therefore, I'm concerned because this summer, past summer, was a high-stress, depressing experience episode I observed amongst our women and our little children. It literally broke my heart to see the fish caches empty. And as I was walking in villages, I thought, is this the beginning of starvation? Ladies and gentlemen, and our congressmen and our elder, if we don't work together as people and human beings, and develop partnerships with one another, and to be kind, and to be loving, and to have compassion, when we talk about this issue, we'll all starve. Our people in our future generation, our children will starve. I guarantee you that 100%. I think it's about time that in this time we develop that understanding of partnership. It's simple. And I thank you very much, Your Honor, for this allowing of this wonderful testimony. Oyana.
Thank you. Mike Williams will be next, and then Father Martin and David O'David. So just to keep that in mind.
Yeah, good afternoon, Senator Murkowski, and welcome to our homelands. And I really appreciate the opportunity to testify and you listening to our concerns. Since I have 5 minutes, I will make it pretty quick. I'm from Akiak, and we last summer agreed to a 7-day closure for Kings. Reluctantly, and our elders and our fish and wildlife managers from the state and the federal government were there, and we agreed that 7 days we're going to sit out fishing for Kings, and our elders and our community leaders agreed at that time. And after waiting for 7 days, there was another extension for 5 more days, and without talking to our community members, and we felt that gee whiz, we are going to be missing some of the opportunities to put up strips or some food for our families. And we're going to be faced with the weather change as well. So we decided to have another community meeting, and the community elders and everybody agreed to go fishing, as we have done for thousands of years. And in light of that being closed, we decided to go fishing. And many were sighted, many were not sighted, and our women and our children really supported what we did. And a lot of our women, elders, and our children went out to protect our fishermen. And it was an emotional, tough time for all of us there, very stressful and heartbreaking to see a fish war in the community. And we have seen that in the Pacific Northwest, and Mr. Billy Frank's story in his book is another example that we need to take a look at, because we have depended on state management and federal management and no tribal management. And I fully agree with President Nanning's comment that that we need to help manage our king and our salmon for the survival of our salmon into the future. And if we do not, then we have more challenges in the future. But I really believe that tribal co-management needs to be honored, and I fully support the Intertribal Commission to deal with the management of our salmon, because I think we all can do that with best science, best traditional knowledge, best of everything for the best interest of the survival of our kings and the future of the salmon. So I just really believe that we all must buy into the management and have an equal say. And I just want to really thank you, and there's going to be more leaders from our community that will make comments, but I really appreciate everyone that went fishing last summer, And we are going to be going through court this month, this month, with 21 fishermen that pled not guilty, and 2 were already convicted. And but those 20 fishermen, we need to be behind them and support them, because it affects their family, and it affects our young people and their futures. Of since we have highest rates of suicide and domestic violence in our area, which we are dealing with now at the conference now, we need to continue to do what is in the best interest of our villages and our tribes. Thank you.
Bueno, Mike. Father Martin Nikolai.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm Father Martin Nikolai. I live in Bethel, just a hop away from Bethel. What I have to say is that we are people who hunt and fish, especially in the villages. Even here in Bethel, we can say the same thing about the people here. And it's our whole life. Among the fish, among the animals and fish that we take for our own use, fishing for salmon takes up most of our time in gathering our food for the coming months and over the winter. And this is mostly king salmon and chum salmon. Here on the, I can say that here, it's here on the Kuskokwim, it's true for the Kuskokwim River. The king salmon and chum salmon are the most important food that we take throughout the whole year. And it takes up most of our time in gathering and storing them. And it's been our tradition, as long as I can remember it, it was always been that way. Last year, during the closures, it was the first time it happened to us, and it was very hard for us. And we were still feeling the effects today. The decline of the king salmon, we can see clearly, is not the fault of the Kuskokwim people. The fault lies elsewhere, maybe down in the high seas. As we heard earlier, 74% of the catch salmon they catch down there are bound for our rivers. Last year, the government was finding and citing our fishermen who were fishing out of desperation. Why can't they do the same thing down at the high seas when they're catching the fish that are supposed to come up our rivers? I heard the figure 60,000 kings, 60,000 salmon that allowable catch that the government is making for the high seas fishing. That's too much fish. Even 20,000 is too much fish. Even 5,000 is too much fish. 5,000 kings can feed several families along the Kuskokwim River for the whole year. I'm not lying. The salmon being the top of the food chain, why can't we do something to benefit the people here and the food that they could eat instead of what you can buy out of the grocery store? What I'm saying is stop the high seas catching of our salmon, please. Thank you very much.
Oyana, Father Martin. David O'David.
Kasudin kwani kasut pea kait lisdangan laitan ka lisdangan malam ki ketbawang tuam ko tahu kwani pa pingai yak mampu pingai ta kapito sa ako malam ko kuing ayuk piu ko gusto ko may mali ang iskola unalis na kami ulo kwani pang kuing kan kaya kan oda katay gusto mayak ko sito na yo kung maluk ka asa kau lo taku macet ka yup pimutat sila lo akawa kiu timar kitchen al khut kena dengan slide tahu kiu tamam kiu al khut nak untuk itu Pitach kamu tungguit, al-khut ait ngetuk, kaya panit kisu di al-khonak sungai cakag talis maya, al-khonak sungai cakag kaya nius kam, agkapim pikping kamta nasip kenang sitamakut, panik ko kinga akilo tukka, umilam tal kasi tukka awum ku asani, pitach nik Bagut kali kui mulu kusuk pemikiran yang musuki kusuk kait. Kalau kau dengan ni utu maya kau nak kemana? Bagut tengok kali yang pernah kisah sebagai yus ni kepala umyah kepala pilok calim mai. Tahu kali masih masuk dia kau orang kali. Ni cukupnya setelah pilih kerja tu kunuku, anak ya aku sikut kong kita mana pitu saya kau cakap, aku kunun tarik kong nak siku kinu orang kuat pitu kita kita sekolah kita suatu tem jadi su taman itu tak siku. Unkutulani na buwilrit tamakut kali jadi tang kanekas ting kakil ting pilan rit ni takam ki website na kaya kakil na kasi tamakut jadi ila kung ki pigun ki wala naksak kung kuda tagmani kui gumis daw ni Nurami magkapugat tayo din tigaw sa kamtay lakay kung tama na siya pangkuto na sa
Oyana yuhluki maniwital rin Janani Paujan
Kuinga litna pasun nila makasadun kaya ka na ipaito. Tawang kasadun litna skolil ngama. Aukut elitra jiwlem talit na waita ilak swat ngayuya kam nanganak sa kamuksu. Paliko kuinga kuya ka kami sa makaski mabutay ni kubwe na katakut. Kuinga wani kusuk pimpainga ni tani bohatja kaulo ayat tunuk sudah ditang batu bunga. Keluar disukana kubetin juga tunuk tes tuah kaki tang bawa suki. Ini amanan nak nekah. Cakapat dengan uluk kuaya tarai rumah kait kita kuciulian dan kemak kajian tarai rumah tahu ada kuting suatu hati kita kira tapi umat jauh tuji dekat Allah kata asat yang dilukuna nak kijiki uksuk kaumiak suku uksuk kami jika memdoka kami kuih imai huta kami nak sigali nak sigali nak kelak tu Jadi kanik tak panga kami dalam kaya lang laks, siga ni laksu. Tuat nita na pakam tu, ina white good. Nunam hokay nga, ya samiwan, unan libas kami ko patakpay nga ko. Tang seman nagutik jan pila krasik, tiulamta. Kanik tak cikuso, unatay niksamiwan ayo, tasingo tirilu kwa paksu. Doa san khut kharitin kita ngatan kai makatasan gaya geluku unak nakit kawak tepuksuku akawak jatuh sian mirengan bekemkingani sukan kawamas kahtiam sto doa sui ngatari ngomalu kutamana Lutum mawa kenaya gelun takwang kuta alas kamyoini lakin kita ngayogone naka nakahamtulang siya takput nangangay takput nakakakay na kaluko piyok tajim situmtigong amtu nangangay takput doa kwa tang homan rilong magpikit ngam tu kang gutas may tangay ngamalu ko tang homan rilong magpikit kutsa doa subtuat na alhakuming maktkut laksuko ibakatakas kaligin kaya giluko unak minaksu langktut uksap kinakun naka Jadi siutau niati kun nupsiut kenaku, tau kan rut kenar, uksat kun nisuk naka, ikililat punayak cisuk toy ko kasamion tang himi kut uksat kamtu tuat nikilikan keduktai cukma. Jadi sunupsiut kun tuhuk. Jadi samiwan tuat entah itu kilikan saya kuning kilikan itu. Tahu megah kucing leput, kanta megat tahu cimek, tahu tahu tengku sulit. Yuk pilih seorang kota alas kam nak mengalami mengemutat nunamitat naunatsu. Kantam kuat tau cimi makla tu nayokai. Lalu sudah kantam tau cimi manakaput. Itu makukumuni alas kami. Tuan cerita diksan berlakak suku. Kuingat wali wa kasatun anak cigat lugut kami liwi ke sekolah suku. Sekolah kena tumkum tahu mereka nunggu sekolah tangilu. Wingas tu kasatun lisa kasun rela macam yang saya tahu kali ukani pak kamu silau dan susmawati nyawan perstubin. Ikhnan kata yang saya ngamanai nat. Subsistence. Tang na ko kasing kung palus ka pagkinaki magpiyo makisat kitlo. Tang subsistence tamang na ko makakap kapertat siya. Ulungun rita ka ternan ka palus ka pagkinaki say kitpiyo makisat kitlo ka kalo. Kaya mas pinipigat ni katuat na ayok kulo. Pujiw lang na kama, pujiw lang na mata, pichiraya ka sa tato kulo. Ayok saksikit hanit stma, snuku tulak ilot ang tawa makistimani. 2 months, food stamp bank, ako tokas ko lang 2 months. Doon namin ako tintaw kami yuso. Doa sinumi kasatigwang kami tutilay. Maraming ako chesi aktuamang ngayt. Maraming ako chesi kiksi kumachik. Nauktaman kanila swat-swat ko lang. Ulo kaya chekang iluta. Nakatkis katunggut chekang situat. Anang ilut. Kalahal itong tuwat. Jean. Tuaw na som kun kumayo kutsa. Nakat makut kwang kujis yugut. Kwang kujis angut nuliang pilautis nuliagut. Ako na tuwing pilautis nuwilut. Nakasatapik bilubuk wakaksaksupik. 2000 maskarluam talut. Malulu magatauti magkaka mga minaksulot 2009 nakkalaktilaka. Pingas maatarin kapiso ko. Imputang kalokpaligan kaplakngatan kanapukit. Wala mo na bukat. Tagayak marut kakalupot. Tagayak wik kaksi. Samna si makpimat yan kat nakabet. Nagmula sinilo ko kalokpamakit kang salamat. Ang masunod ko pinakpigmitat ako kan pito pintanakay. Ashago niya kapsiliya ni Presbyterian Heron Fishalia la Soma Japa ni Respectable ni Kiput Lashani Ashopan Naksulang kapat ng taktak Presbyterian 1959 Lam Galagal Hotel 2008 Ay lumuwal masawag tayo ng iskula yumma. Kaya usay ang ina magamunis na yung nakakungat ma. Ay lumuwal luma ay ginalal. Naswan wala pa na puwayaw luko. Tamani ko ba lang sulo. Ay isang tao ni tamani. Tuay mana awakan katon kung kudis na kayo nilo kuwilo ninyo legal bitiw uksilras ng kaswan tagayak pagganit awali tiyo kwani kuitaman nasun nakita anong tiyo sako dali sumagot silat mayang nitinglag maksito na yito Shooting kataka, talitama ko pang kujits ng yun. Nika nga sus natin pang kujits. Sina ko katsenta, pasukalikay na yun sa supilagay. Ngang naksutsun kinukun ako ang luto pero kastat ko. Kalikay lang ang kumakutsiw lang ka. Pangkot ng kinubunuksun, pakusalis tutik-suki. Ayaw ko desting kanut ko atus wat. Tuay, pagkintan nyo kasim, nigaya galit tayo ko des kaput. Apawot kam kuy kwan ng bitaris kakakiso ko. Nulang nalos umiyak sugunay tingani. Nulang ko wat na ayaw kutsikot. Kanarutak suda. Uy, mas nulang kakatapso. Kung papawalok na ilupakalilos. Pataktok pagka mumiakot may light. Apin nakitan ka, pupukta kong malupit siyo. Nakatwang ko jis niyo jet. Imakpigmitak suta ko katwang ko jis niyo jet. Pitsiyo, katintang ko akot. Yulang tapilas hukay kot. Sang katut nakawak kang nakakutuk makilakuna. Nagkiskiw yung tut maskakan riski. Nakakato ko nga isko ang tiyamak sa kunak. Ato wakakan riski ko din nakamagtiyamak kaya kunak. Samyuan tang bagagot. Pitahkak sayok suktuat nitamakin ka. Ano yung tagal, ngagi ko man wala pangumig lang, kailangan gumiyamakang kata.
Sasakwa tayo flugat ka tukakan.
Ya, tinggal umak nagsami lang ng kanjo kata.
Tai nasunrit katagakati tumtuwit musat. Kito mga nakakota natin tang hakamitsting napahin na sagli mo nakasak. Tang tuwat na kaya tayo kasula. Nakakota kami na umiyak. Tanat mo na gilitan sa wakso. Itak ko yan.
Kuyana, away kiwa. Away kiwa, Bristol Pet Munich, up to Jamie, Bristol Pet Munich, Panini, to look at 5 few good Deutsch packing, Natang Kaya, King Organ, Kina or Jum few good, Kina Bristol Pet Munich, Kalaf, Jukan, Yaknak, to King Organ. We'll hear from the guy in the back, and then I'd like to, I know some people came here from Bristol Bay, so we'll call upon you next, and then Tim Andrew after the Bristol Bay person.
Koyana, welcome to
Be sure to state your name for the record.
Jackson Williams from Makiak. Welcome to Alaska. I think we're the richest state in the continent of the world. Alaska is the richest state, and a lot of our people from outside, they're going after our mineral, and not so good for us people that depend on a subsistence way of life. And you know, I belong in the Lower Kuskokwim Advisory Committee, and a lot of the things we do, I go whenever possible, but lately, these past 2 years, I've been going to a lot of the meetings on the fish and state and federal fish concerns. And one of the things that I'm going to mainly talk about is my elders in Nakiak. Like my cousin Mike mentioned earlier, when the closure happened for 7 days this summer, we abide with it. We go along with that 7-day closure to fish. But I went to the working group hoping that we'll be able to fish after that, on that 7th day. But what it turned out, I don't know, we did, at least Beverly, I don't know if she's here, she kind of spoke for me that give the people a chance to fish for their, you know, #1 food, which is Chinook. Chinook is our #1 fish in this area, at least on my family side. And what happened on that 7th day, they extend the closure, and when I get back to Akiak, we had a meeting, because my elders in Akiak wanted to have a meeting, so we had a community meeting right in Akiak. And they were craving to eat that food. All of us, I think, that were born in the Kuskokwim River, when they first come up, we crave for them to eat, because, you know, that's our #1 food. And my elders, we've been trying to get help from wherever, Department of Fish and Game, fish commissioners on the state side, you know, but nobody is listening to us. Nobody. And what the elders did in Akiak, they wrote to the highest ranking person of the United States of America. they wrote to President Obama asking for his help. Because nobody here in Alaska is listening to us. And hopefully, I'm very glad that Lisa Murkowski from DC came around for this testimony, and hopefully they'll start to listen to us. And we need this, like the people that mentioned this before me. Subsistence is our way of life. And what happened in Akiak this summer, they tell us, our elders tell us to practice our subsistence fishing rights, which we did. And in my record, June 22, that's my latest I ever eat king salmon. Latest. And I hope it won't happen again. Because we the people, when we want to crave and eat the fish, we want to have our food like we used to in those days. And there's people that want to speak up. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless.
Tom from Bristol Bay. After Tom will be Tim Andrews.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Thomas Tilden, and I'm with the Tribal Council of Bellingham, Alaska. I want to thank you, Senator Murkowski, for coming out here to listen to the folks in regards to subsistence. I'm here basically to talk about subsistence. I grew up, a little introduction myself, I grew up in a small village outside of Bellingham and grew up a subsistence lifestyle. I'm a fisherman, that's what I do for a living. I'm also a subsistence person, and I want to thank you for holding these hearings. I think that, one of the fundamental questions that we have to ask ourselves is subsistence working now? And I can tell you it's not. And I think that we have to ask, how can we fix this? How can we fix subsistence? And I think there's a number of things that can happen. In Bristol Bay, we just did a visioning process where we took a look at all of the things around us and asked ourselves, what do we want to do in the next 20, 30, 40 years? And what are our priorities? And the thing that came out of our visioning was that we wanted to make sure that our natural resources were protected so that we could continue to live a subsistence lifestyle and continue to live off the land that we live off right now. And I think that is something that we all want to do in Alaska. When you hold and conduct these hearings in Alaska, you're gonna go to the coastal people and listen to the people along the coast and what is important to them. You're going to go into the river systems and you're going to find out what is important to the river people. And then you're going to go into the inland people that live off the caribou and the moose and hear from them. So subsistence is broadly defined. And we can't forget the people that live off of geese and the birds that fly. So subsistence is very broad. But when I look and ask myself, what is it that is not working, and why isn't it? Why did ASCA fail us? Why did ANILCA fail us? One of the things that I think that was brought up earlier was really important, was that we have to be empowered somehow to be included into solutions. We are not included right now. It seems as though that when ANILCA gave federal managers, people who don't subsist, to decide for us, so it was taken out of our hands. We either have the state of Alaska telling us what to do, the federal government telling us what to do, and we have no say. We live in ground zero. We're the first to notice any changes. regarding any of the animals, birds, salmon that are out there. And we need to be part of the solution. We need to be part of the management when it comes to dealing with subsistence. When you introduced yourself, you talked about being part of the Energy and Resource Committee. And I think that it's really sad that in Alaska today, that 60% of our money goes toward energy to heat our homes. And when a majority of that should be going to energies so that we can continue to subsist, continue to hunt and fish the way that we have always done. Now we have to team up. Now we have to start working with families. And we can't go out and hunt and fish like we used to. Things are changing. Things are not working right now. And that's what we need to fix. And I hope that when it is fixed, that we become part of the answer. And the other thing is that when you look at overall the amount of subsistence hunting and fishing that is happening, it's only 1%. 1% of all of the total catch of everything that is out there. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for a lot. We're just asking for a very minimum just to get by. When I look down the road 100 years from now in Alaska, after all the oil is gone, after all the minerals have been extracted, what do we have left? What is going to be the economy of Alaska? I believe that it's going to be people coming to visit us, to see our uniqueness, and we're going to be part of that. Us as Alaska Native people, we are unique. We are part of the answer for the future, and I think that we need to be included. I know that my family is going to be here 100 years from now, and I know that some of the corporations, that BP, ConocoPhillips, some of the mining companies are not going to be here 100 years from now, but Tilden, the last name Tilden, will be here 100 years from now. And my kids, my grandkids will be here. And I know that. And I know that, and I hope that there's subsistence hunting and fishing just like I did. And that's what I want to see continue. So if I could just leave you with 4 things in regards to what I'm dealing with subsistence. Number 1 is protect the habitat. Make sure that the habitat that our fish, that our birds, that our game lives on is protected. Make sure that the oil companies, the mining companies, the people that come in and extract the minerals, make sure that the habitat is protected so the natural resources can continue to sustain us. Make sure that our resources, regardless of whether they are swimming in the water, or running on the land, or flying in the air, are protected so that they can remultiply and rejuvenate themselves and continue to feed us. After this testimony, after all the testimony is received across the state, make sure that when you put together the team that comes up with solutions, that some of us are sitting at that table to make some of the suggestions that are being made. And finally, I think that one of the suggestions that was made in regard to empowering our tribes, make our tribes be part of the solution. I think then, and only then, will we have a final solution to subsistence. And thank you again, Senator, for coming out and listening to the folks. And thank you for taking the time out and seeing Southwest Alaska. Thank you.
Boy on the town. Good to have your testimony from our fellow Yupiks in Bristol Bay. You're being here today. You've enriched the testimony being provided to Congress. Tim?
Thank you, Anna. And welcome, Senator Murkowski. For the record, my name is Timothy Andrew. I'm the Director of National Resources for the Association of Village Council Presidents. I've served in this capacity for 17 years. And it's been a wonderful 17 years advocating for the subsistence rights of the people from our villages. And I'd like to thank Mr. Tilden for his comments, and I'm glad I'm following his statements because the subsistence management system is not working. And if you look at the statistics of subsistence, in 2000, people in Western Alaska consumed about 664 pounds per capita of wild food. And within a 10-year period, in 2010, that number dropped down to 490 pounds per capita. That's a total of 174 pounds per capita loss. If you take 5 individuals from this room, you set them aside, you combine the total amount of subsistence food loss that they have lost in that group, and they represent a family of 5, it'll be a total of 870 pounds. That's equivalent to about 43 king salmon or 1 moose that people have lost within that 10-year period. And an average American eats about 2,000 pounds of food per year, whatever kind of food it may be. But if it was in our situation, back in 2000, it was 33%. 33% of our food sources came from wild food. In 2010, that number fell down to 24.3%. So what's happening? I'm not sure what's happening. Is it because of the resource, or is it because of the opportunity? Is it because of the high price of gasoline? I don't know. But in the more recent years, we've seen a precipitous decline in our Chinook salmon resources on the Yukon River, and we've seen what's happening on the Yukon here on Kuskokwim River as well. Last year we faced, as several people have indicated, we faced severe subsistence restrictions. People endured, and they took whatever actions necessary they needed to take to feed their families. And also the Mulchuk and Caribou herd, which we share along with the people from Bristol Bay. That number of the caribou herd had declined from a high of 220,000 animals in 1996 to less than 30,000 animals today. Those two factors might have been the reason why we had that decline, but there are possibly other areas. I'd like to also indicate that it's not only the ability to go out and harvest subsistence food resources, but it also affects our health, our individual health. Back in 1960, there was a guy by the name of Dr. Robert Hurwitz. He used to be the medical director of the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta Regional Hospital. And back then, within a 5-year period, there were only 5 cases of heart attack hospitalizations in this hospital. In 2005, 123 people were hospitalized for heart attacks. And between a period of 2004-2007, 42 people died. So it's not only our spiritual well-being, our cultural well-being, it's also our physical well-being that's being affected by whatever is happening to subsistence, whether it be regulatory, whether it be provided the opportunity, whether it be gasoline, high cost of gasoline, whether it be alternative food sources. So what would we desire? Just like Mr. Tilden had expressed, we need more tribal involvement. This affects our cultural, spiritual, and our physical well-being as well. Because the amounts necessary for subsistence under state law is not helping us at all. The amounts necessary is just basically a tool to put up there saying that if you reach this amount or get under this amount, we shall establish Tier 2. The rural priority provision of ANILCA, that does not help us because it measures everybody out in rural Alaska. It doesn't take into consideration the things that we need for our cultural, spiritual, and physical well-being. We also need tribal co-management of all the food security resources to include intertribal fisheries commissions for both the Yukon and Kuskokwim rivers. We also need true tribal co-management of our migratory birds. We are the highest migratory bird consumers in the state of Alaska. I got the shut up bill, so I'm going to summarize here real quickly. We've taken 111,000 migratory birds within the ABCP region. We've gathered 60,000 migratory bird eggs. So migratory birds are extremely important to us. We also need true tribal command and management of our land resources as well. Caribou for one. We've had so many successes with moose population in the lower Yukon. We've proven it through our Yukon Custom look at goose management plan that we can take these resources that are almost depleted and build them up to the population they need to be to sustain our subsistence resources. With that, thank you very much, Senator.
Okay, there was a guy in the back. Yes, you, and then we'll come up to Earl and to you here. Those are the next three. Right there. Be sure to state your name and keep the microphone kanami.
Yeah, masuk beta. Kita risok. Ya, kaya na pasker kima, una alis namin yung kuya ko tawag man na pasker nagkasyo. Ano ka?
Kituzi.
Kaya, ako na, bukat yung kanos katam sasak, tawag ma. Aksak ka na kita siyok-siyok niya, upunah kapis ko taw na nabuto. Kaya kung kumaya ko buton, bila kau lupa time macam, kucu working group ada, imus jiwan istipin rata. Udah kania, makut konvent sepat cuna nang sat kesat hu, kau kutun yuk pingin mana yuk tin kalah tulen ni, asis soya. Kau tama kaniam set, phone at stumpai, phone at tilet, nak pin phone midori phone at, aku aman cat pilut. Aksak kalau na, kung kita tahu mas kini 14 araw, kuinga umiyak atuklo pinris kuma, umiyak atuklo terus kan minta ko, ubutang kuinga nunal nika, makutingulangan tapi cukia, tamala tu mas kuma, kami pinrit, tama tingulan ka, cukia, kali patkan ang naksa cuk muut. Inaya ya misalnya kuya mereka patai kan macam ya kawak naik aku cium kita macam patai pun kuinga saja hal punya usaha sekolah katung ngau ni tapi cium subsistence tapi cium kami selak cium sama macam mai mungkin bagi head tayo mai tempat kami jak nak terlihat kan waktu ni kalau masuk kalau sekali ni aku waktu dah tapi cium kuinga sama tapi cium naik jatuh ayo pernah lihat nak jauh cikatuk sokok jauh pun dah cium dia aku kau telegram aku tu okaya iskhamet kena di next week ويدخ كوزو سريش ده فن خستار بيبي أقوم مشكلة كتير لوقا دوني فورتين نامي تايم سيكسين وفشتين نام كنا بيتكسكو ما كنت هني يقول لين كوم ياكسو لين كناكني في يتخانك يتخانك بيتكسو تمام في أنا نقول أقوم من كتير ريتا وتشدور تايم تشيلون هدوم ياكسو وكرتا وتشيلون خكات Isukto kami tamal stuman kecap sebudak menabung ingu cipul kami kanis dot nayo dot itu ayak tu kanis kan kami saksa tahu ama ika yo kat kita aku na ini sih kita ika aku cuma kan tak kecil kalau ini kuimas kau ni kat show kat cuma itu aku dia ulah jenis tak aku cuma ini saya nak napis kita tak kau ika kanis tertarik Oke, doa nama nam sehingga harus kan kamu seksa.
Itu.
Rata, saya nak baca.
Noah,
go back from Nebraska.
Kira okay.
OVIK.
OVIK.
Please, yang nak musik nasi ulah les lima. OVIK.
You get it? The gentleman here, and then Earl.
Thank you. My name is Dennis Sanders Sr. I'm from Bristol Bay, Moose Tuyok, Alaska, on the Nushagak River. Thank you, Lisa, Senator Lisa, for coming out here to be heard from our people. What I'm going to talk about is mainly fishing stuff, and it's just like our dinner table all our lives. It's our dinner table, even the water's our dinner table. And on the land, it's still our dinner table. Berries, game, moose, you name it. Birds that are coming in and nesting. It's our dinner table for thousands of years back up to today. All Chapman I heard moved over on this side from that big activity that is going to be happening in Pebble Mine. We cannot have a mine with these two rivers together that produces thousands of salmon, that feeds that ocean out there also. These rivers feed that ocean, and they come home, rest of the salmon. EPA, not long ago I read, 50% of America waters got no aquatic life in them. Rivers, that's 50%. Our rivers today, out here, got aquatic life. That's why that salmon stream up the river again. Bristol Bay here, we've been fighting that mine. We want to use that 404C process. We've got to stop that mine. All these villages, Bristol Bay side, out here, hey, it's our dinner table. Activities like that, it's shown in other areas, it kills it. Nothing left. With no jobs in a lot of communities, subsistence, our dinner table, it's important. We got to continue to provide for our grandkids for 100 years. I mean, it makes you think when you read about it. You know, America, 50% of their waters no aquatic life. Hey, that should be a real strong message to you leaders that we vote you in there for. We need to protect these waters for future generations. And I'll make it short. A lot of topics were covered by children, a lot of old folks, especially the elders there, with their knowledge. John and both of them, I seen them go to Bristol Bay and fish herring and stuff. So, but I want to thank these people that are testifying. Take it seriously, real seriously. Maybe your kids will come up and do some sports fishing one of these years on down the line. For those reasons, that it feeds. It's our dinner table, the whole state of Alaska. Period. You know, instead of going to the store, they go out and go gather food and this and that. Just buy fuel stuff. Guess what? It lasts all the winter from our dinner table. And I want to thank you for coming out here. Thank you very much.
Your name, sir?
Dennis Andrews, Sr.
Dennis Andrews, Sr. Right here. Earl Samuelson is next.
I want to thank you, Senator, for coming to our region. I also want to say hello to my relatives, Bristol Bay area, and along the coast. My name is Earl Samuelson. I just recently became the president of the native village of Murkowski. I wanted to kind of hit up on what happened on us in this summer in Murkowski. Our community had experienced a low fish number. We went along with that 7-day closure, because we are not a greedy people. We wanted to let that salmon go up the river so it could be enough for the future, for 7 days. But then the next time, the 5-day closure, our elders got together. All they wanted to do was have a meal on the table. They said, go fishing. So our people did. Some of them got sighted. Noah got sighted. You know, we didn't like it, but they went. Only because they wanted to taste that salmon. They wanted to feed it. That's how bad they wanted. They didn't want to break no laws. The state made that law, the federal law made that law. But laws sometimes don't work for people. Sometimes they don't. We have to fix it to where they can help. To make it shorter, all the salmon passed. They said it was okay to fish the red salmon and the chum salmon. So we did, and I'm thankful for that. Because when the kings were running, all of our fish racks were empty. But when the red salmon and the chums were coming, I could see salmon up there. After the season was done, I sat back and I thought about it. I said, why is the government letting us fish for a fish that we once fed our animals? When we once fished the king salmon as our main food. I didn't like it, but I was happy. My family was happy. So we're still eating chum salmon right now. We had king red salmon next day the other day. It's that same salmon. We try to make a king salmon or a strip out of a red salmon. It didn't taste as good as that king salmon that we once had, but it still was a fish. We were happy. When I saw our elders trying to get ticketed, I felt that was not right. So we put together a proposal to try to let our elders go fishing at a time of conservation. We submitted that through the ABCP convention and it passed, and it went over to the AFN one to allow our elders to go fishing at a time of conservation. They passed over there too. And I'm looking at it and I said, well, how do we make it into a law? If we're gonna, these guys are making these laws, let's work at them and try to make it into a law. And then I checked with our resource guys and we said, in April was the deadline to put it in a proposal, to put it in a state law. He says, well, in January is the next fish meeting, let's go over there. So we went over. And I'm learning how this process works. And I want to thank ABCP for helping out, and ONC, because I learned all these board members. Not many knew about the Kuskokwim area. I had to meet with those guys and teach them one-on-one and where we at and what we do. And I also learned about amendments in the Kuskokwim Management Plan. And I noticed in these meetings that they were amending these plans, and I got my head into one of them and I said, hey, throw in that elder management plan. And after checking with all the board members and the lawyers, they were able to throw it in the plan. At a time of conservation, if you're 60 years of age on the Kuskokwim, as long as it doesn't go below where the emergency escapement plan is, it's written in the Kuskokwim plan now where elders at 60 can't go fishing. They may. Fishing game can do that now. It'll be in that Kuskokwim plan. One of our elders wanted to speak about a habitat. The whole river is the habitat, the spawning grounds out to the ocean. Like our elder said, those bigger boats are digging the bottom. That's the food for the future salmon. We wanted me to mention that here, to protect that out there. There are there's not only CBRF boats out there, there are international fishermen out there, way out there, that are destroying the habitat, the salmon habitat. Several years ago, Kipnup, a barge came in, it took off, raked the bottom out there, just no helmet for years and years. So we submitted a resolution to try to protect that 50-mile limit out there, no fishing out there.
Earl, we have more speakers and we're running out of time.
Okay. We wanted to put protection out there, 50 miles off the coast from out here. And that resolution went to AFN and it failed because our brothers and sisters that fished along the coast didn't like it. So, from our region out here, I know for Subsistence, they're not protected out here along the ocean. From the Kuskokwim Bay to the Yukon Bay. We'd like to see like a 50-mile buffer zone where people could subsist without commercial fishing. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. And
My grandfather had told me many years ago, he said, no matter where we're from, we are the same people. I never understand what he was talking about. He was talking about the spirit of our people, how we should work together, how we should have no walls between our people. And also, he would say that our Creator, Chisam Joa, is always there watching us, everything we do. And right now, as I read the good book, I realized that all of us were made respectively same, as well as our resources out there that we have, and therefore all of us. We cannot exclude one person in terms of giving subsistence right to one group. We cannot do that. Otherwise, there'll be prejudice in our state of Alaska. We cannot isolate one group of people while you elevate the other. You cannot be a representative if you're going to do that too. You know, with Lisa, I don't need to worry about our subsistence way of life. Because we, 29,000 strong, we voted for our own Congresswoman, and she's going to take care of us. I truly believe that. I truly trust her because I voted for her. And also, we need economic development in order to sustain our subsistence way of life. Who's going to give us a snow machine? How much does your gasoline cost? It's over $6 a gallon. So our 20 villages out there have what you call CDQ. And our young people are benefiting from that. As well as those elders that cannot do nothing to earn money. They only wait for their Social Security. And our CDQ is the one that's providing them gasoline, stove oil. And if you look into my freezer up there to see if I have any king salmon, you're not going to find king salmon in my freezer. For 64 years. See, our people need to work together. We can compromise. That's what our elders have taught us to do. And are we ready for the future? That's what I would ask each and every one of you that are here. Those young people, do they know about our culture? Do they know about our hunting equipment, the kayaks, harpoons? My grandfather and some of those elders have told us that things are going to go back the way they were hundreds of years ago. So everything that is written in a good book is going to come to pass. And so we have to unite and work together. Right now, there's hardly any economic development out there in our villages. We're depressed. We have so many social problems. And if you want to read all about our people, read the Discovery, what's going on. So, Lisa, we need help. Our people need help.
We need help. Our elders need help. Our young people need help. Our children need help in our schools too. As well as our those economic issues that are keeping us apart. We don't need to work like that as one. We need to work as one people.
Ivan, after Ivan, we're going to go over here next to Noah. Yeah, after Ivan.
His last name?
Mine is going to
Ivan,
be
Ivan.
real short.
Same.
First of all, Senator Lisa Murkowski, thank you. Thank you for coming out and listening to our voices. And my comment is, my list is long, probably 5 pages, what I want to say, but number one, naka is fish, like King Salmon. Same word as food. We cherish that. Our culture, traditions. Our elders always instruct us to keep your fish nets mended and go after that fish when your opportunity comes. They followed that in our community in Akiak. And we're not trying to hurt anyone, but to ensure our survival of this winter. And as spoken by these wise people before me, it's all for grandchildren's future. My proposal to you from Ivan is this. AFN and Regional Profit and Non-Profits were meeting in Anchorage with Secretary Salazar. I tried to go in, but they shut the door on me as I tried for a tribal consultation. And they shipped me out to the next building, misnomer. That was the saddest day for me, for federal consultation. And with this, the problems that created this is ANSTA, last May 27, Section 4B, I believe it is, Distinguished Numbers, or Aboriginal Hunting Fishing Rights. That should not occur to any human race on this earth. And I think we have an opportunity to fix it. Plus, with of our young children that are our future. And we will propose to you to consider that. We'll do our best to go to Washington, D.C. and speak to you. But the loneliest day of my life was June 21st, 2012, last year, when our people went out fishing, knowing that they'll be in trial this next month here in the Bethel trial court for practicing their time-honored tradition. Please help us. We need help out here. And I know you will. We look forward to helping you however we can. Again, thank you very much for coming here and listening to us. And also letting me speak. Thank you. God bless you and wish you well.
Brianna Ivan. Banny by Noah. And then after him, Sky. Okay. The Megan, yeah, back here.
Do you know the name yet? Anna, do you know the name?
I don't know. Atgen Kituzik.
My name is Nuzgaf in the Eskimo name, and my white name is Jacob and Black, and I'm from the Pakia. I represent the Pakia. And our main topic today is subsistence. Yes, it's subsistence, but I don't like this word subsistence when it comes to gathering fruit, you know. But that should be gathering fruit. What they call this gathering subsistence fruit for human consumption has a lot of meanings. We are not the only ones that subsist on this earth. Every human being has to survive out of what he or she gathers for subsistence. And for high seed,
interception, or whatever you call it, the quota or the bycatch. I think U.S. and Alaska are not the only ones that go out through the high seas to get these king salmon that are coming in. I think there are foreign countries that are involved in this high sea interception also. And we do have international treaty law down there at our Bering Sea. And some of those foreign countries are bypassing that international law on that line. And who's enforcing that? Nobody. We have Coast Guard and Fish and Game or Fish and Wildlife. No one is enforcing that. Kuskokwim areas or Yukon area are not the only ones that are to be enforced. If there is a law, international treaty line, that has to be protected. No, nobody's protecting that, but sometimes they do catch them when they're outlying that international treaty law or bypassing it this way. And let me put my glasses on. I've got some written. For gathering subsistence, first of all, we have to have species, or whatever you call them, fish, in order to gather for long winter nights. And we have to protect our spawning grounds for our fish here. Right now we have a lot of beaver out there that are blocking those rivers that fish go out to spawn in for. A lot of them are plucked up. And no one is clearing those pathways for the salmon to enter for spawning. Long before those animals were blocking those areas where they go out for spawning, there was enough. And we also have problems with our some mail services that do kill salmon in our area. These are the hovercrafts. We have seen, and some have complained, and some have written some complaint statements about this, and nothing has been done. And during their hatcheries, the fish, those mouth of those fish that are hatching to grow out to ocean in fall time, I don't know if they're protected. I have heard some people testify on behalf of those dead little salmon that are floating down the street where they spawn. And as for this summer, we had some problem with enforcing these people that are trying to get food up for food on the table. And wildlife or state wildlife said that the waters belong to them. I don't believe that, no. I don't think that's right. Long before the state came along, there was water already for us. So I don't trust them. So that's all I have to say.
Koyana, Sky is next, and then there's a person behind you, John. Yes, he'll be after Sky, sorry. and then you and Sarah. So I'm trying to get people that have been waiting a while. If you came in late, that's why I'm ignoring your hand at the moment.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you, Senator. And Myron asked me to say a few things just from a legal perspective. As most of you know, I've been representing many of the tribes and others in this region for more than 25 years now. And in listening to everyone, and through my experience, it's very clear to me that the only way that you get the long-term, secure hunting and fishing rights that you're asking for is for there to be a very clearly, in federal law, a tribal hunting and fishing right. We have tried many things in Alaska. We've tried a rural priority. That hasn't worked. We even tried to get rights for the indigenous inhabitants of Alaska to migratory birds. And you just listen to that term and you think indigenous inhabitants of Alaska and you think that's got to mean Alaska Natives. Turns out it doesn't. Turns out indigenous inhabitants means Alaska Natives and other residents of villages with legitimate subsistence needs. And it has actually been amazing to work through that in the last 15 years and realize that even the small exception ends up eating the right, so that the small exception for others ends up lessening and eating the rights that Alaska Natives were intended to have for migratory bird hunting. And it's on and on. Every single meeting is a struggle because of that. We have a model in Alaska. A tribal right does not mean necessarily an exclusive right. It can be tribal plus rural. We do have a model, the only model that we have, and that's in halibut, the tribal plus priority. Every tribe that customarily and traditionally has taken halibut gets to do so, and every tribal member gets to go back to their village and fish. It doesn't matter if they live in Anchorage or Fairbanks. What matters is that they're a tribal member and they go back to where they came from and they're allowed to fish. That's not true for migratory birds. That's not true for any other right, and you know it. I mean, if you live in Anchorage and it's a rural priority, you're out. Marine Mammal Protection Act is for Alaska Natives who dwell on the coast. And right now we're trying to figure out, well, who's an Alaska Native? I mean, is it blood quantum? What is it? Well, if it's a tribal priority, then you know that at least it's your tribal membership that you decide who qualifies. So there are many, many practical reasons why it's very important that people start to think about it in terms of the tribal right. The other things that we know, it's tribes that are federally recognized. It's tribes that have government-to-government relationships. It's tribes that are written into federal law. It's tribes that are in court decision after court decision about hunting and fishing rights. And you start to diverge away from that, and you get into ground that you're uncertain. And uncertainty, in my experience, always leads to less rights for Alaska Natives, more struggle to secure your rights. The second thing that everybody's talking about is co-management. And of course, that's, I think, a common theme. Again, that needs to be tribal co-management. And one wonders why Alaska Natives are even in a position to have to ask for that when almost any place else in the world, or in the United States that you would go, it would seem absurd that Native people don't even have the right to manage their own lands for hunting and fishing. I would think that that would only be the case in Alaska. I don't know of anywhere else where that's the case. So these are very legitimate things to ask. And that's all I can say.
Thank you, Scott. Megan back here. Please state your name. After him, we will come to Sarah Jasper, and then, yeah, to you. And John after that.
Thank you for coming, Senator. I'm not from here, but I'm a commercial fisherman, and commercial fishing and subsistence.
Can you state your name, please?
Tim Anilan, Senior. I'm from Iliamna. And I am from Iliamna, where the fish for the Kwiak go to spawn. So I'm really lucky because that's where I could go and I could get my fish there and spawn. When I hear people say they're closed down for 7 days, that means the fish has gone by. You can't catch that fish that already went by. Either that, you're gonna have to spend a lot of money on gas to go where they went to catch that fish. And it's hard to do when you're trying to live off of subsistence. See, my kids, I teach them that when we're commercial fishing, you can't catch fish if your net isn't in the water. My dad taught me that. If you're not fishing, you're not catching any fish. Our problem is, I'm a commercial fisherman. I know that the fish are being intercepted in Area M, where there was never fisheries before. But now there's fisheries, and you can see where all the fish is declining in all the river tributaries that they're going to. And I could see, like we used to get 10 million fish up the Kwiak River. Now we're lucky if we get 2. And you know, when I go up and I drive around the river, the lakes, and I do drive around lakes all the time, and I check out the rivers, and I see where the fish are, and I go and I tell these guys that, hey, there's a lot of fish over there in this bay or this river, and I'll tell them where there isn't any fish. When you get 10 million fish up the river, you'll see a lot of fish. But if you only get 2 million, you don't see them jumping. You have to go out there and you have to set your net in the middle of the river to try to catch 30 fish, just to put it in your smokehouse. We live off of subsistence. My dad is the chief of Iliamna and New Haven. So I'd like to thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know Greg was also waiting for a while, so before we come back while the mic's there, let's go to Greg Rodichka, and I remember you too, Stephen.
Thank you, Senators, for coming, and I wanted to touch base on a couple things. I've been a part of many committees and commissions and task forces and boards and whatever else for a lot of years dealing with this issue, but I could go on for quite a ways. But 2 major points as far as what you mentioned for the purposes of this meeting regarding your committee, Energy and Natural Resources, having jurisdiction for Title 8 and whatnot, Skyfirst. But one of the things I wanted to mention, specific problem that we have, is that rural definition that is in Title 8 of ANOCA. And I think we can all be pretty clear, at least it's my understanding, Title 8 of ANOCA was created and included in ANOCA specifically to take care of obligations or that the federal government felt were left unaddressed by the Alaska Native Settlement Act. And it doesn't say obligation, it says policies and another more balmy word, I can't remember what it is off the bat, but what you're ending up with that rural label is, in many cases, phasing subsistence out. And I don't believe that was, or should not have been the intent. So the title even, I don't think it's only 2 believe it, certainly not myself, but right now we're undergoing the 10-year review on what communities are still eligible. The rural definition is based on arbitrary numbers that were created from either the U.S. Department of Agriculture or the U.S. Census Bureau, or one of those back in the early 1900s, and that's what's being applied to Alaska. So along with what Guy mentioned as far as that tribal, what I was going to suggest is that we definitely need to come up with a new definition that could incorporate the customary and traditional use criteria that are recognized by the federal government, although I don't believe they've actually adopted them into regulation. They are recognized. So that would, be to address that issue. And one thing I think people don't realize also, that call just went out, the federal board just put out the call for review of that criteria for what constitutes rural. The board's looking for that information right now. Included within that, for things for them to consider, is aggregates of communities. Do people from this community work in that community? And so do we consider them together for the purposes of whether or not they're still rural? Murkowski, Napakia, Wheatlip, Ekachuk, people that have folks living in Bethel that are working and maybe commute back and forth. And I can see it coming. Maybe it won't be this round, 10 years from now, when the next determination comes. Under that rural supposed protection priority for subsistence, you lose your subsistence rights because you wouldn't be returned rural anymore. So with that, and the other one I just want to put the plug in again is the other main problem you have with the federal management system is that your agencies have no accountability to the federal subsistence board or the regional subsistence councils. And that needs to be addressed, and I urge you to take a look again at Resolution 0911 here. We passed through ABCP and AFN, and the last time I talked to Nelson and Ralph, it's been a couple months ago, but they still had not received a response. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Did you get the spelling of his last name? Your
Roczicka.
And Stephen Maxey, and then Sarah. Yeah, keep Stephen Maxey.
Hello, Stephen Maxey from the native roots of Murkowski, the federally recognized tribe. Look at the term subsistence, it fits us correctly. We are, everything is, it fits us. That we grew up just like that, practicing. Always been there, providing, everlasting, perseverance. And back then, when my dad was alive, he used to tell me there's going to be problems fighting or doing with subsistence through your lifetime. You will know. I forgot all about it now. This summer it popped. It happened. Looking at what's going on right now, there's a lot of fixing to do, especially what Rick says, and through your work with Energy Commission. And I'd like to encourage ABCP to have a special subsistence convention to look at what needs to be done, what needs to be revisited. Under ANILCA too, you know, the public lands, like what we've been hearing, subsistence is always threatened. Even right now, we're threatened with subsistence. We cannot hunt on certain corporation lands. Long time ago, that never used to happen. Now we cannot even pick berries on certain lands. Now we can't even do things on certain lands. You know, it's subsistence. It's already threatened through Act of ANCSA, ANILCA, you know, all this Congress. And even right now, price of gas back home, it rose $9.61 a gallon. Threatening subsistence. And here, our people rely on all these foods that we don't waste. How we are qualified as subsistence users is that we don't waste food. Everything we use is all eaten. Well, we're going to keep doing that, but subsistence is always threatened. We need to start protecting it, like Sky Starkey says. We need co-management of, we need to work government to government so we can co-manage it. Leave state alone. State can work under us. we'll use them as enforcement officers. You know, we have all these to do with subsistence. We have anthropologists, we have biologists that can tell us, yes, we did that, we'll keep doing that. We don't need to depend on state to tell us they did that. You know, we have long history, and I like this 5 minutes better than 3 minutes, but Board of Fish does. And now Bethel, just like Rick said, Bethel is going to wake up maybe today or tomorrow. There's a proposal that's going to be done in October, second week of October meeting. There's a proposal for Bethel to become a non-preference and subsistence. That means Bethel people will, you know, they're going to be hit hard, especially for my village to Napaskek, because most of our people commute to work Bethel and to Bethel to work, and they come back, and now it affects us. We're going to be considered urban, you know. So there's going to be a lot of subsistence talk. So we need to do a lot of fixing. That's it.
Brianna Stephen, Brianna Sarah Jasper, and after Sarah will be you, and then John Wallace. Okay. Yeah, and we're gonna need to be wrapping up here very soon. So we'll just, if we don't get to you, please submit your comments in writing.
Good afternoon, my name is Sarah Jasper. I wrote a letter to Senator Murkowski, and she can bring it home with her and keep it in files. And it says, and I'll make a few comments after. My name is Sarah Jasper from Bethel. I'm originally from Akiak, but work brought me here. I've been living off the land all my life, and lately I have not been satisfied about the fishing closures in the summer. I have 7 children and 15 grandchildren with my husband. All of us share the fish we catch for the winter. Last summer, my son-in-law was cited for fishing and had his net cut by the state troopers. I'm pretty sure you all value what was handed down by you by your grandparents and are very precious to you. The net that was caught, which was shown on Channel 2 News, was my son-in-law's, which was handed down from his grandfather, and that was the only net he had to fish for us with. As I write this letter, the state troopers still have the net in their possession. I'm pretty sure you all have children to feed and will do anything to do so. Please understand, even us where we're coming from. I get emotional when I think of what happened this summer. If we Alaskans maybe go down to the rest of the United States and tell the farmers you can only farm this much and limit how much you can have, you will not like it at all. When we fish and put away for winter, we only take what we need. Please have a heart and let us eat off the land what we were raised with. You have heard the heart disease and all the other sicknesses are on the rise for Native people because we're not eating our native food. Most of us try to make ends meet and are not qualified for food stamp, and the land is our food stamp. One thing I want to mention too is the fruit prices are rising each year while our pay isn't. Much respect to all of you and thank you for your time. And this summer, or how many years ago, we went picking berries up Kisaralik River. We saw a beaver dam. There were fishes on the beaver dam that were trying to jump across to spawn. We went berry picking in tundra. We got to this beaver dam. We tore it down because we wanted to pick berries. We tore it down. Lots of fish came out of that lake. The beaver dam had kept them there, and I don't know how long. They would have been there if we didn't break the beaver dam and let them out. So beavers honestly are...
Bowl noodles, Pepsi, and I cannot continue without saying Sailor Boy pilot bread and peanut butter. My kid's favorite food. All those reduce the time and need for subsistence activities. All those in war have contributed to the increasing importance for the need of cash to conduct subsistence activities. Like I said earlier, although limited by offering limited jobs, opportunities for well-paying, such as through ABCP, YKHC, Lower Kuskokwim School District, Lower Yukon School District, village corporations and tribal councils, municipalities, and periodic seasonal summer construction jobs, the fishing industry for salmon, herring, halibut, and CDQ. Those are all options that provide for the local people to continue and supplement some parts of their subsistence lifestyles. Subsisting means the source or means of obtaining the necessities of life, such as food, clothing, water, and shelter. It no longer means gathering and hunting food from out in the tundra. That meaning has changed. And that new meaning, we got to recognize and find a balance. Because you go to Scammon Bay, where there once used to be 20 fish racks. You're lucky if you see 10. That has changed. The only consistent enterprise and funding source that is becoming the hope for communities is the CDQ program, which for our area is the CDRF. And like all subsistence resources, it is based on a renewable but managed resource, which is pollock, crab, and other groundfish. Unlike other funding sources, CDRF has been consistent in delivering programs and benefits to the residents it serves. Despite the great things we see CDRF doing in providing those benefits, it is limited to what it can provide because of the inequities in the allocations that the company receives. Those imbalances limit the benefits we in the villages receive from our allocations and the investments made by the company. The inequities need to be based on population. We heard a lot on population. You know, people from upriver need the fish to pass, and you know, to give those people upriver an opportunity to fish. And like I said earlier, CDQ is a renewable but managed resource, and we need to change the way it is managed now. It is locked in by Congress, and we need to change that, because the whole time I heard several comments saying that we are the most economically depressed region in the state.
George, we need to move on. We only have 15 more minutes,
Okay.
so I'm going to cut you off right there and move on to John Wallace. If you have your comments in writing, please feel free to submit them. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Senator. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak as a voter, one vote, one person. So I brought show and tell. When I was thinking about what subsistence meant to me, I went to my freezer and I got a bag of chum. And I said to myself, everybody that was around me that would look at this bag knew what it meant. It meant hands, it meant gas, it meant nets, it meant all of us doing things together to participate in subsistence. This is truly subsistence right here. This is what's in our freezer, and this is what keeps people going. It doesn't keep me going, though. It keeps the people that can't work or because there's no opportunity going. This is a really important part of our land, of our people out here. And one of the things, the suggestion that I have in there is that value, that extra value that this means to everyone that's sitting here today, be added into the calculation. You know, it's going to come down to numbers at some point. I need this many fish. Well, I don't need this many fish because I need to be able to pass on how to do this to my kids. I need to be able to keep them from doing dumb stuff. I need to be able to keep their hands busy. And this is how it's done. Okay? And so, you know, as you think about what subsistence means to all of us,
our people are just preparing themselves for the summer. And there's trepidation. People are thinking, is the same thing going to happen again that happened last summer? God, I hope not. A lot of our people in our communities, small communities, even my family, we're already out of smoke pits. And it hurts. And it's not just me at my age, but also my grandchildren that are used to this food from the time they were born. And they crave it. It's not just the elders, so it's just the whole community that depends on this resource. I was at the Regional Justice Conference that ABC sponsored last week. And we know that many of our communities, we have social ills, especially in regards to the alcohol problem. And I attempted to speak with one of the enforcers there about our issues, and what he said to me was a person that comes into our community with a bottle in his person, even though we're a dry community, he's not the priority. And that kind of floored me because that alcohol kills our people. But the question is it a priority for the state law enforcement people to park their boat in front of the village to watch out for the people that are trying to fish for themselves? Because that's what I saw last summer. Trying to find out people that are out there trying to fish for their families during close season. Is that a priority for them? God, I hope not, because it's something that we're trying to do for ourselves. One other thing that, as a final comment I wanted to make was, we have commercial fishermen from Akichuk, Huisluk, Akiak, and Chulaksak that do commercial fishing activities and that sell fish to CVRF. I appreciate the comments that Mr. Binayak made, saying that nobody should be above the other person. But our commercial fishermen in our communities are not benefiting the same benefits that our CVRF villages are. Maybe what the Congress needs to do is extend the boundary to include our people that rely on that resource to provide for their families. Because right now, we have a lot of our commercial fishermen, especially the young people, having to look elsewhere to get services for the fisheries that they conducted last summer, because they're not getting the same benefits as the commercial fishermen from lower end of the communities. So it's something I hope that you are able to look at in terms of doing a hearing on CDQ and how we can benefit collectively out here in the region where it's depressed in terms of the high cost of energy and such. And finally, I think I agree with Sky Starkey, because it's something that we've talked about: co-management, tribal management, native preference. These are some of the catchwords that we've thrown across the state in terms of trying to get our people to agree to some point where we need to have some protection for our people to have the resources that they depend on for generations. And I appreciate you for being here, and thank you for listening to us.
Boyana Willie. And the last couple of comments, Mr. Bill, right over here. Raise your hand so Megan knows where to go.
Good afternoon. My name is David Bill Sr. I'm from Nelson Island, originally from Hooper Bay. That's where I grew up. I was born in Cheevac area. And first of all, I want to thank Senator Murkowski for what she did when I wanted to what's that place now? Canada. In Seattle, you know, when I was trying to get my passport, the lady didn't even look at what's inside of it. She even asked me what I was. I told her, me and my wife are Eskimos. How'd you go? You can't get a passport from here. So I called one of my colleagues, called somebody, and have him help me get a passport. A friend of mine is sitting over there, I'd like to mention names, he's over there in front row, called CVRF. The CVRF called Senator's office. I guess that was the fastest way of getting passport from the state of Alaska in half hour. I got my passport. Thank you, Senator Murkowski. First of all, where do you start? I don't like to talk about something that somebody tells me to talk. I like to talk about what my elders used to talk about. You talked about the company called CVR, the coastal villages. But we haven't talked about industry, which is also the industry that is down there. We haven't talked about Olympic industry, which is down there. We want to talk about what could happen here in our own area. The problem that we have in our area called bycatch, which happened in 2009. We blame other people for that. We blame ourselves. We don't know where to turn to. Who do we blame on? I know that this organization was almost belly up at the start of 1900s, 1993, 94, something like that. We were down $11 million. You know what our elders said? I was a board member at that time. In fact, I was the chairman of the board. And our elders said, put your heads together. Talk peacefully with them. Don't dislike the person. Talk about the person, talk about something that they have put on a piece of paper. Talk about that one. Don't point at anybody. So we did, we tried it. It was pretty hard. I think it was pretty hard to not to point at the person that we were working with. But we tried, and it worked. Wouldn't it be better for us, for our students, for the people who are working for us over at CVR office, and for us, to work together and try to solve this problem without hate, with the love in the heart, never blaming anybody. Those are the words of the elders. Try to settle something without hate, never blame anybody. That's dislike the people that they put before you, not the person itself. Tama ko kasi, it didn't come from me. I'm so Julian kan sumistik ko yung matang kaya kan singat ko william. Julian matang william tak.
Oh, okay. Kuya na, David, so
Let's try working together and try to solve this problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And okay, we'll close with the last statement here from this Mrs. Swope.
Andrew Whitman.
Andrew Whitman.
Yeah. I live and work in Bethel. Honorable Senator Murkowski, thank you very much for coming to hear our issues this morning. Here on this great land, which is a part of the state of Alaska and the United States. I bring the issue of consecutive unjust action by the federal and state governments through the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council and the Department of Fish and Game by taking our resources and issuing severe restrictions on the people of the Kuskokwim region. We of this region have to bring the issue right out without holding back. We cannot skirt the issue because the federal and state arenas have no desire to expose their consecutive unjust action. From my viewpoint, there is an incredible lack of justice with one group legally allowed to waste salmon, given the term bycatch, and other group dealing with severe restrictions, being issued citations, made to appear in court, and paid fines. When we bring our issue up to the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, what do we get in return for answers? They must impose restrictions because there must be escapement enough to restock the salmon resource. They are the in-river management of this resource authorized by the state. They are doing the work they were hired to do. Let me tell you a fact. No matter how many years we endure severe restrictions of harvest, we will not get a rebound without the halting of our resource waste termed bycatch. What do we get when we bring up the issues to our senators and representatives? I thank you for this talking session, but we won't feel better until we have a federal and state agreement which will return our salmon resources to us. We will not feel better. What has occurred in our region is purely unjust. To rub our wounds with salt, McDonald's advertisements continue to state that the Alaskan pollock is coming from a sustainable fishery. That, I tell you right now, is purely false advertisement. And I ask that you put an end to those stories and advertisements which claim that the pollock resource comes from a sustainable fishery. It does not. Why would I bring that up to you? For you, as our senator who works to represent peoples of this state, because this is what will bring out to the American public that our salmon resource has been taken right out from under our noses. A comparative situation would be like taking resources from the so-called uncivilized Indian tribes of the 1800s, like General Custer taking the Black Hills of South Dakota. No legislators in Washington, D.C. claim that. I'm sorry, I respect you, honestly. Do not claim that you represent me unless you do represent us over and above big business, who have created a hierarchy in our government to first represent big business. We are residents here, and we would like our resources back. Don't tell me that I'm blaming anyone. I am fighting for the resources which belong to the people of the region. This is not a blame game. This is telling it like it is. Don't tell me or get fooled that the waste of our resource, so intelligently termed bycatch, is a very technically challenging issue to resolve, or that the stocks they are wasting are the Asian stocks, or the Vancouver, BC stocks, or those of Washington State. There has been plenty of research to show that some of the salmon stocks wasted are eventually heading home to our region. This is appalling that we even have to fight for the stoppage of the waste of our resource. They did not get our permission to waste our salmon. We have never authorized that council, called the North Pacific Fishery Management Council, authority over our salmon resources. You are in a position of power to stop this theft. You are a public servant, and I thank you. I ask you not only to listen to our grievances, but also hear us and put some incredible effort to work to end the interception, stealing, and waste of our salmon. I ask that you move government to represent people first rather than billion-dollar business. Not a corporation, no, is not a person. Change that, and you will win the hearts of millions of people, not rich people, but many millions of honest-to-goodness people with hearts beating inside their chests and fingers to feel your hand when you greet them. Thank you for coming to hear me speak. I am not a corporation. I am not an executive or honored board member. I'm just a resident of this state and of this country. Our salmon offers so much bounty and culture. The sustenance we make from our salmon represents hard, industrious work when we are finally able to sit and enjoy it. It takes a lot of hard work and effort to produce. Just because we don't put any money in the state and federal coffers does not mean that we are unindustrious, lazy people. We are a proud culture, coming from a strong, hardy background, who could not have survived if it were not for such a strong, intelligent spirit. Let me ask you to do a couple of things. One,
Angie, if you can wrap it up, we're over time now. So I really appreciate your testimony. If you want to submit the rest in writing.
I could submit it. In closing, I would ask two things. One, ask for lying advertisements to be put to a stop. Those which claim that the fish for McDonald's McBites come from a sustainable fishery, there is such a thing as truth in advertising. Two, if the trawler fleet fisheries claim that it is such a sustainable, complicated matter to end the waste of our salmon, let them do without. We did without last summer. Let them feel what it's like to go without. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It has been about 2.5 hours now of testimony from clearly a level of passion and emotion. A great deal of thought has gone into the comments. Many of you have traveled some distance to be here today to put your comments on the record, and I thank you for that. I thank you for weighing in and speaking for so many others. I know we look around this room and know that we could fill dozens of rooms this size. If we were to go into every village in the Delta region, we could probably get groups just this big with just as much passion in their statements. As I mentioned at the outset, what we are doing today is the beginning of creating a legislative record, a legislative history that we will use going forward. This is just the first listening session, but I think what I have gained from this has been extraordinarily helpful, extraordinarily informative. I think that there were some pretty good questions that came out, and I've got at least a couple pages of notes here that I will be going through, but the question was asked by Thomas Tilden. Is Subsistence working now? And what I heard from just about every speaker is that the answer to that, the direct answer to that, is no. And as we listened to the various threats that people spoke to, the threats were first and foremost what I heard, and I don't mean to distill the testimony into simple bits, but I heard a very clear thread running through the concern about the government, the regulations, whether it's federal regulators or state, stepping in ways that perhaps not even-handed, but clearly not with the input of the local people, clearly not with the input of the tribes. Other threats that we heard repeated very clearly to the subsistence way of life is just the simple cost of living out here. The fact that fuel is making it more difficult. The fact that it costs so much to just live here. We spoke very, very eloquently from many about the issue of bycatch and the threat that presents. And for those waiting on the river for fish that they believe to be wasted is truly a pain to the heart. And I think we heard some of that expressed here today. Other threats, it went as basic as the beavers, building the beaver dams to the reality that we have, that more and more we'll look to the grocery store, as expensive as that is, to go buy pilot bread and peanut butter. But I think as we think about the threats to subsistence and truly what subsistence means, I heard many definitions that were presented here today, but again, a very common theme being subsistence is a way of life. Subsistence is dinner on the table. Subsistence is a bag of fish, not only for the nourishment and the sustenance, but because of the act of preparing and harvesting and all that goes into it and the traditional way of preparing the fish. So for most of you, you may not think that the information that was shared today is something that needs to be explained. For too many of my colleagues, for most of my colleagues back in Washington, D.C., you may have all been speaking in total Yupik without an interpreter, because for them to appreciate what the customary and traditional usage is of your fish, to know that the word fish actually means food, really sums it up. It really tends to define you as a people. So it's difficult for me to convey so many of your thoughts. So the fact that you have shared them on the record here today is extraordinarily important, so that the others may learn from your stories and from your sharing today. So I thank you for what you have done. I thank you to each of you that has stood to speak. For those of you who were not able to speak, or perhaps just didn't care to speak today, please know that this record is open. If you go to my website, which is www.murkowski.senate.gov, there will be a special page where we will be receiving additional input. So if you felt that your comments were perhaps cut off, and I so appreciate the job that you did on, I think you were very respectful in making sure that everyone was able to speak. But if you would like to supplement, or if you would like to put your name to this record, I would encourage you to do so. I want to acknowledge the help of those who allowed us to put this listening session on today. Anna Hoffman, for your help this afternoon as the moderator, I greatly thank you, and I appreciate all that you have done. Myron Manning, as head of ABCP, your leadership is greatly appreciated, and what you have done to help facilitate. I'd also like to acknowledge my staff, Megan Alvana Stempel, in the back there. Megan is now back with me in Washington, D.C. After a brief reprieve back here in the state. Andrea Gusty is manning the cameras down here so you can't see her. Andrea is in my Anchorage office, originally from Antioch. And Jay Stern, who is behind me, who handles so many of my fish-related matters. So I thank them for their help, and I'd also like to acknowledge our court reporter, Gail, who has been typing away as you have all made your comments. We will work to make sure that those who spoke in UPIC, that we are able to get that UPIC, that translation into the record as well. I'd also like to acknowledge KYUK. They were, we were hopeful that we were going to be able to broadcast this throughout. We have been live streaming this on our website, and Andrea has also been recording this by video so that we will not only have audio, but we will have actual video for the record as well. So please know that your attention today, your very respectful attention to one another, because I do acknowledge that these issues can be very difficult, and that oftentimes we are in disagreement over how we might want to proceed. But I heard from many of you, that we must be working together. These are our resources that are precious, and they are precious to us here today, but we want them to be equally precious and available to our children and our grandchildren, and that comes when we work together. So know that we will be on this journey for a while longer, but thank you for all that you have given us today as we have started this first step in these proceedings. So thank you very much for your time, and with that, we stand adjourned.